What's going on today, guys? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to episode number 9.
Number 9
of Monday Metal Mayhem. Today's video is going to be kind of a twofer. We're going to do the demo track as usual. We'll do the mix walkthrough as usual, but we're also going to be talking about this beautiful guitar that I just got in, and this is the guitar that I wrote this track with. This is the Charvel MJ DK24. This is the made in Japan version of the regular DK24, which is normally made in Mexico. I do have that version in pink. There are some subtle upgrades with this guitar that are really nice. We'll talk about those in a little while. And the price, which is not so subtly upgraded, is actually twice the price. This currently retails for $2,000 here in the US, and the standard DK24 version, made in Mexico version, is $1,000 less, so it's half the cost. But we'll talk about that more in detail after we go through the mix walkthrough. So this week's video didn't really have a theme. It's just kind of a riff I wrote and it just kind of built up around it. I wanted to give you guys something. I didn't have a lot of time this week to work on this, unfortunately, but we're still gonna give you something because you came for it, you're here for it, so I'm here for it too. So this was the original riff, and I let you guys off the hook last week. There was no clean guitars. I promised there wouldn't be any, and there wasn't. So what I did this week was basically I have a low gain, a mid gain, and a high gain or heavy gain tone. The basic intro riff, essentially, that I started off with was this right here. And it's just chords, man. It's just simple stuff. And I played it really sloppy because I am not warmed up. That was basically the riff. I had those 4 chords and I'm like, I just want to put a riff around it, so let's make it work. So that riff goes throughout the whole track here, which is only a minute and a half long. And then, yes, there is a little bit of cleans at the end of the song. Sorry guys, I don't know what to tell you. Let's just do the playthrough now. Originally, this was all I had to the song was this basic opening riff, and I just used a low gain tone, and here's what it sounds like. Let's check out the settings. I'm on this whole Soldano kick still. I'll switch it up next week, guys. But, you know, I've been liking what I'm getting out of it, so we're just going to go with it for this week. Here are the settings, using a little bit of drive. I'm using the crunch amp, so gain's at 4, so nothing too heavy. This, like I said, this was a low gain tone, and I kind of just want to keep it plain and simple. So the mid gains, it's a little bit more. We're adding a little bit more to it. So let's check that out. There's more gain and probably not much else different than that from what I can recall. So for each of these, for the low gain, mid gain, and the heavy stuff, I just made a little, you know, track stack and just basically made it its own little bus. So I can add a few things here and there. So for the low gain stuff, it's all running into this instance of Soldano, which is just the pre-effects and the post-effects, nothing else. So I have a little chorus there, and then just a little bit of delay and reverb, give it a little space, a little airiness. And then for the mid-gain bus, I have nothing really going on, just some EQ, a little more EQ. This is where I'm taming the palm mutes with this dynamic EQ, which I use all the time. Going on to the heavy rhythm stuff here. And it's not even that heavy, honestly. Yeah, so here I'm actually on the lead channel, the Soldano. Got the gain set to 5. You know, presence is boosted a little bit. Depth is pulled down a little bit. So here's the bass with the heavy guitars, just those two isolated. We check that out. They're kind of occupying some of the same frequencies, so that's why I just did a gentle little bit of sidechain compression, and you can see the needle's not doing much. 1 to 3 dBs basically is pretty much all that's doing. And I also have all of these guitar track stacks running into kind of a master guitar bus, essentially, the rhythm guitars, which is comprises of everything. So let's check that out. That just has compression on it. Yeah, I've got some more sidechain compression. This one is also sidechain to the bass. So I'm kind of duplicating that because I just didn't want to build up. You've got 3 sets of rhythm tracks all going at the same time, as well as the bass. And I just didn't want it to sound too cluttered. So I kind of did that, replicated that sidechain to the bass. So that sounds pretty nice. Let's move on to the bass stuff now. So at the beginning of the track, like usual, I just wanted to kind of start off kind of, quieter or a little less energy going on. So I just used a little clean bass action here, and let's check that out in solo. About as uninteresting as it can possibly be. So I'm using DI from Nocturnal Bass, and then we're going into all this stuff here. So let's check it out. First off, we've got EQ, typical stuff for me. Then we're into parallax, and here's kind of what I found for this week that sounded good for me for the quote unquote clean bass. And it's pretty quiet too. I just kind of pulled it back. Again, I just want the intro to the song to mostly be that guitar. And there was a little bit of drums there too. Let's check it all out together. All right, so bass. Now for the dirty bass or the heavier bass, and here's what we came up with for that. Also kind of a clean tone, not very heavy this week. And, I like to mix it up. Sometimes I'll just distort it, crazy. And this time it was just kind of like just a touch. So on the heavy bass or the dirty bass, we have EQ as usual. We've got parallax. Then I use this saturator plugin, which is Fat Cat. It just looks kind of cool. It does kind of what the G-Sat does or any other typical saturator, I just have a little bit of that on there. You almost don't even notice the difference. And then compression, we are always sidechaining the bass to the kick because you want it to kind of dip out when the kick hits so that they don't clutter each other and kind of mask each other. And then finally, I'm using TDR Nova again in the wide band compression dynamic setting. And it's just kind of nipping off the top of the transients just ever so slightly, not limiting them, but just kind of holding them down, clamping them down so they don't get too crazy. And that is the bass, guys. Nothing really special about it. All right, the drums is a little more interesting. Let's talk about that. What I've been doing with the kick drum recently is just basically taking a stock preset from Logic and then just utilizing that and then just kind of, tailor it to suit your needs, whatever works for your drum. Definitely have to scoop out some of these mids because it's just too much without. With. So, when I first started mixing my own stuff, I didn't realize you had to dip out so much of that from the mids on the kick drum, but you really need to. And then of course you want to boost the high end a little bit just to give it a little more click if it doesn't have enough, and just helps it, sit forward in the mix. And then on the drum bus distressor, I've been using this religiously. And then a little EQ, not much at all. I'm just pulling out something at 4100. I guess it was some kind of a whistly frequency. We can listen to it, see what it was. I don't even remember, but let's check it out. If you pull any frequency up high enough, it's going to sound annoying. So you want to be careful with that. What I've found normally, what I'm doing when you do the whole, frequency sweep, trying to find the annoying frequencies, I'll put it up somewhere between like 10 and 15, but I'm not going to just blast it because everything sounds bad that high. So if it sounds bad at like 8, 10, 12 dBs, you know that there's something that probably needs to be removed. and then I'll pull it down. And I always rather do not enough, as opposed to doing too much. So I'll pull it down a little bit. I'll narrow the EQ, the Q on it, or I'll widen it just as much as is needed and just kind of back it off a little bit. So I don't ever want to get into this habit of like just killing way too much or too much of the Q band, because that's just going to mess up the whole thing. So I just surgically try to remove the annoying frequencies as best I can. Let's talk about the cleans really quickly. Sorry, I know some of you don't want to really care about the cleans, but I like them. We leave them in. All right, so this week I really wanted to push the whole 90s clean type sound with, a lot of chorus and very lush and full and stereo wide and all that stuff. And I think I pretty much hit the nail on the head with that. I mean, if you're going to do it, you're going to go 90s, go all in is what I say. And then finally, I do have a little lead here, which I didn't play in the playthrough. At first I wasn't going to do any lead stuff at all, but I was like, you know what? It needs a little something. So let's add it in. All right, here it is in solo. So the lead is running into soldano first for the majority of the tone, and then I'm going into archetype nollie just for the post effects, for the delay and reverb, because I just prefer these a little bit more than the ones that are in the soldano plugin. Actually, I'm just using delay, no reverb this time. After that, typical EQ moves, and then we're going into the stock compressor. Doing very little, and then finally the gain plugin, because I think I did some gain automation. This week I didn't do a whole lot of automation. Again, I didn't have a lot of time to do stuff, so this is kind of thrown together. Yeah, just a little bit of gain reduction here and there. That was pretty much it for the automation. Yeah, so this week's track was kind of simple and straightforward. Not a whole lot to it, but it was still, fun putting this together. It's not really metal, but we'll let it slide this week. We'll get back to the heavy stuff next week, I promise. This week is more of just kind of a hard rock thing, and it had a little bit of that surf rock vibe with that whole, slide in the mids here. So that's the track. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Next week, we'll get back into some heavy stuff. Now let's talk a little bit about the guitar. So like I said before, this is the made in Japan version of Charvel's DK24. And there are some differences between this and the made in Mexico one. First off, this neck is beautiful. It's all wenge, just solid wenge, that deep, dark, chocolatey color. I absolutely love that. It's like my favorite thing. This ebony fingerboard is beautiful as well. And you've got stainless steel frets, because for $2,000, you should have stainless steel frets. And we do here, so I'm absolutely pleased with that. Hand-rubbed, oiled finish, I believe, a satin finish on it. And it's just so smooth and comfortable. And I can attest that this neck is absolutely identical in shape, in spec, as my other ones. I've got two other DK24s. They all feel exactly the same. So whatever they're doing over there, whether it's American-made, Mexican-made, Japanese-made, the necks are staying true to form, exactly the same. It's got the 12 to 16-inch compound radius. They're using Charvel's own brand of locking tuners. However, these have the very short posts, which I love, because you basically don't need string trees. I mean, they put two on here, but you really don't need them. You can take them off if you want, because the angle is so low, it's just really beneficial to not have them there. And the strings don't seem to bind at all in the Graphtec nut. This one is cut really well. We've got everything else is pretty much the same as the other guitar, except this is a mahogany body. The other one, I believe, is alder, but this one's mahogany, so it's a little bit heavier, a little denser, and resonates a little bit differently than my other one. Same pickups as in my other DK24 as well. Seymour Duncan's, you've got the full shred, the Alnico 2 Pro in the neck, and then you've got this additional middle pickup here, which is like a flat strat single coil style. I have had some negative thoughts about the full shred pickup in the bridge, and with those woods, that combination, I'm not a tone wood guy. We're not going to get into that whole rabbit hole, but it does resonate differently than my other guitar, and it doesn't sound as hollow and tinny and bright. It just sounds right. You've got your 5-way selector switch like a typical Strat, so you can get more of the quacky sounds, those in-between sounds, the 2 and 4. Both of those positions sound really good on this guitar. We have the Goto 510 bridge. It's so smooth, you can get the nice flutter reaction with it if you want. It's just great. And in this black color here, it just goes perfectly with this guitar. And for the controls, we have master volume, master tone, and it's a no-load tone pot, so when you have it all the way open, it kind of locks out. Completely takes the tone out of circuit, so if you're somebody who never touches the tone knob, that's a nice added feature, just kind of keeps it locked out of the way, you're good to go. And if by chance you want to get more information and more details about this guitar, I've got a link down below. Check it out if you feel like it, and if you're looking for a Japanese-made guitar and don't want to spend, you know, $4,000 or $5,000, this might be something that you'd be interested in. Possibly, you know, Charvels are great, tried and true. I love them. I've checked out a whole bunch on this channel. Everyone has been a joy to play, but this is really just like the cream of the crop, man. This thing just feels so comfortable, and there's nothing to change. Nothing about it needs any kind of upgrade or anything at all. It's like an Italian-made sports car. You don't change anything on it. When you buy a Ferrari or a Lamborghini, you don't mess with it. It's perfect. Same thing can be said for this guitar. So Charvel, your Japanese stuff is flawless. I like the Mexican stuff too, I'll be quite honest, but this thing is just stellar. This is like the supercar of guitars. And for $2,000, it's not cheap, but it's also not extremely expensive. You know, you might want to consider something like this if you're looking to get a high-end quality instrument and not spend $4,000 or $5,000. I'm gonna keep this for another week or so and write some more music with it, maybe finish up that song. Stick around for next week's Monday Metal Mayhem. I really appreciate it, guys. Make sure that you're subscribed to the channel if you haven't already. Hit the like button, leave a comment down below, share this video with your friends and family, but just don't send it to your mother because I already did. That's it for today, guys. I'll talk to you soon. I'm out of here. See ya!